All right. And by the way, also, I forgot this one thing too. If anyone in here needs to dip out, just leave it in the private chat and I'll let you guys go. All right, cool. So we are live right now. Does everyone see us? Do you see our beautiful faces? Hello. Hi, everyone. Hi. Nice to see you. Haven't seen you in such a long time, right? I was literally streaming an hour ago. And okay, so we are here for the first ever roundtable on my channel. I've never done something like this before, and I feel like I need to blame this on Brighton, because Brighton. I announced that Brighton was my new community manager a few days ago on Twitter, and seeing all of the trans activists descend upon my friend was really off-putting, and I thought that this was a nice opportunity to sit down and have some discussions with some self-hating trans people, and that's what we're going to do today. So, my name is Gothix. You already know who I am. My boyfriend Saul is up here. He's going to be helping facilitate this conversation, and we have some wonderful guests today. We're actually missing one person, but once they pop in, we'll add them to the stream. So I want to do a little roundtable just to get everyone's name, what you do, and what do you hope that people will get from this conversation? I'm going to start with Marcus. I already said your name.
Well, I'm Marcus, and my handle is The Offensive Tranny on YouTube and Twitter and Instagram. And I make videos where I talk about the trans community and also about gender, biology, and all that stuff. And I get a lot of hate, and I'll also talk about that. And I hope that people will take a step back and think about like simple things as how many genders are there, and also just about, how are we treating each other? Because a lot of people who claim that they're tolerant and for LGBT people, they're not really trans or LGBT friendly right now, just simply because they don't like people like us. And yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Blair?
Hey Gothix, hey Marcus, hey Buck, hi Brighton, hi everyone.
Hi.
So I'm Blair White. I'm a YouTuber, social and political commentator, and what I would hope people get out of this discussion, which, by the way, thanks for facilitating it, Gothix. This is one of a kind. I'm really excited, and I respect everyone in here. I would hope that people see that being trans is not synonymous with being a leftist. It's not an ideology. It's just an aspect of who we are. And that to a large extent, being trans has been co-opted, like every other minority out there, by the left and by rabid leftists. So hopefully we can just encourage that there are all types of people in the community, and we deserve a voice just as much as everyone else.
Awesome. Thank you. Brighton?
Hi. So my name is Aurora. Obviously, you know me, Gothix. I'm your community manager. I honestly don't subscribe to most political conversation out there. I think that due to, the ever-increasing mental health that comes with being trans, as well as the other issues going on, I don't really have a place for everyone's bullshit in my mind. So I don't let it in. So I have conversations with you, obviously. My other friends, and then I just kind of live my life. But a lot of people like to attack me for just kind of existing, and those are people that are usually trying to force their certain ways of thinking on me. So I'll speak out about it when I need to, but most of the time I just kind of am chilling. So, but It's nice to meet all of you.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Buck?
Hi. Hi, everybody. So I am an entrepreneur. I create sex toys for the trans male community. I have a cannabis business. So I work in cannabis, and I'm also a speaker. So I pretty much travel the world talking about my own transition. I transitioned over 28 years ago, and I talk about the health problems, and I really discuss things that deal specifically with trans men like myself, men who were born female and transitioned to live as men. We know we have a newer space in the world, which we can get into that as well. So my focus mostly is about trans male health and educating the world on myself and why I had to transition, and biology, which is a very important part of my story and where I come from. So in a nutshell, that's who I am.
Awesome.
Can I add something about Buck?
Sure.
I would just like to say, Buck is an icon, and Buck has been out there for years and years before so many of these insane activists that honestly spit in the face of the people who paved the way for them to even be spouting their bullshit. So thank you, Buck, for just always being out there representing.
I love you so much, Blair. Thank you for saying that. It means a lot to me because I get so much hate for being an elder.
I think that's ridiculous because it's one of those things where it's like they say respect your elders, and to me that's like they probably have knowledge that you don't have just based on experience. Yeah. Really, really weird.
It is.
Somebody has to start it.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So I want to dive right into this first question here because someone actually mentioned it. I want to know, are you all accepted into the trans community, and why or why not? Marcus, go first.
Nope, not at all.
Why?
I think mainly because I speak out against the non-binary ideology, and I say pretty often how I don't believe in the identity. So I get a lot of hate from both activists and just non-binary people in general. Even though I'm not trying to be mean or anything. I just say why I don't believe in it, and yeah, so they don't like me because of that. I even got death threats and people defending the threats. So it's pretty, it's a lot.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah, I often call myself the I often call myself the black sheep of the trans community, because I definitely am not accepted in like mainstream trans community. I mean, there are a ton of trans individuals who I definitely vibe with. So my closest friends are trans, but if we're going by the community in the monolith that people are trying to create out of it, definitely not, absolutely not. I mean, feel free to look up my name in any trans subreddit or any trans message board, and it's insanity. But that's what happens when you step out of line from exactly what they want you to say, do, and think. And I think that's the thing that we all have in common here is we don't just bend the knee to the ever-changing whims of the community where the rules are changing every other day and becoming more insane.
Yeah. You're right. That's exactly it. And so the problem that I find is that because I don't believe a lot of stuff that's being said today, and I'm very against transitioning young children. And so because of that, I get a lot of pushback. I'm a transphobe. I'm a TERF. I'm all these things that are so insane that you would call another trans. And I'm sure pretty much you all get the same nonsense. And it's just what they try to do is shut us down. But we are lucky enough to, I think all of us in here have a powerful enough self-love for ourselves that we don't shut down and we continue to say the things we say because we care about this community. And I can speak for myself. I care about the future of us. I don't want to see us get into the space that we're getting into, because what's going to happen is we're not going to be able to transition because all these wingnuts are saying things that don't align with really what transgender situation is about. And so, I think for myself, I'm very outspoken, as well as Blair is very outspoken, and so is Marcus.
Yeah.
I would say definitely from the experiences that I've had, I'm not typically welcomed by the trans community. One, because I am friends with people that are supposedly anti-trans, and then two, I think the LGBT just kind of scorned me a little bit ago. When I started seeing that, I think the LGBT movements stopped being movements and turned into kind of what I think was just essentially a party almost. And I was like, I'm not really about that. I'm not really. You guys, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? So, I think upon shutting that down, not only have I kind of honestly stopped being friends with a lot of, like, I wouldn't say stopped being friends. I kind of have reservations about being friends with other LGBT members initially until there's a reason why. From my experiences on, Twitter mostly, people don't like that I have my own voice. People don't like that I care for myself, and people don't like that I don't care about what they think.
Well, what's interesting is so I'm politically on the right despite being trans. Some people see that as a contradiction. I absolutely don't. I don't know what me being trans has to do with my views on the border and taxes and foreign policy. But regardless, you know, there's this idea that if you're transgender, then you subscribe to a specific ideology, which to me is so kind of like, I see that as hateful. I see that as you seeing me as so stupid that I cannot think for myself. I cannot think outside of these borders that you guys set for me. And we get called, well, I won't say we, I'm sure we all get called self-hating. That was the joke earlier. It's like, what I see in these people, think of like the sort of like green haired, foaming at the mouth, armpit hair, like weird, like think of that person, right? That person, that sort of archetype that we see like replicated over social media through TikTok and Twitter and whatever, they're always so angry. Like they're always just foaming at the mouth. They're so hateful. They're so full of like reasons why they want to destroy the lives of people who disagree with them. Whereas like, as far as I can see, I look at Buck's very happy. I look at Buck's social media, I look at Marcus's social media, and I know I'm a very happy person. And I think you can just see the difference in like our quality of life versus theirs. They're like all broke, they're all destitute, they're all depressed, but they all have every idea in the world of how the world should be ran. It's like, I'm not following people who have nothing to show for their ideology.
Can I actually ask you a question based off of Gothix's question? So prior to transition for me, I was a gay man. So how did you identify prior to your transition, if you did?
I didn't really, I never thought about it. And that's what's so weird is that like prior to like the past few years, this whole concept of like my identity and my label and all that, it was never like a thing for me. Like the way I grew up in like the punk rock world kind of, and like I grew up in like, I'm just me. I don't care what you call me. It was never like a thing. And that still has carried on even till now, that like, I don't give a shit what anyone calls me. So I guess technically I could have been called a gay male before transitioning, but I also never like hung out with gay guys. I never had an interaction really with a gay male sexually. Like it was just, I don't know. It was always just me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was a hardcore les. I was a big old dyke. but I had, back in the day, like 30, 40 years ago, seriously, that's how old I am. 40 years ago, I was a dyke. And that being said, I had made everybody call me he. And that was way before the whole pronoun thing and all of that nonsense. But it was so crazy, people would just call me he because I was so masculine. I was just such a dude. So when I did transition, people were just like, but I was most definitely, I would say, I identified as a butch gay woman because it was where I felt the most comfortable. It was where people, 40 years ago were okay with me being butch in that space. But when I said I was a dude, people would shut it down. And they sent me to a psychiatric hospital because I kept saying I'm a dude. So that's the thing that the younger generation kind of doesn't understand. Today, you get to have so much. And it's like, God, I got put in hospitals when I said shit like that. So, right. So that's really where I identify that.
And that's what makes me so angry is that the people that came before us and even before Buck, like fought so hard and for so much. And I just feel like there's this like metaphorical spitting in the face of these people when we're going so far with the activism. Now we're trying to transition 11-year-old kids and the idea that like biologically male boxers should be able to crack the skulls of their opponents, and the idea that if you're not transphobic or you don't want to date or if you don't want to date a trans person, you are transphobic rather. Like this is the kind of stuff that is just, all it does is create backlash towards actual individual trans people. And maybe these activists can sit behind, their echo chambers and the fact that they only know other trans people and only talk to other trans people. But regular trans people who have interactions with the outside world, we see how it's affecting the community, this insanity.
Right. Totally.
So I actually have a question to piggyback off of what you said, Buck, when 30 years ago, nobody had issues calling you a man because you were so masculine. So I want to know what everyone's opinion is on this idea that pronouns and compelling your speech to use pronouns as a form of respect to trans people. Because for me, I'm a very visual person. And if I see man, I say he. If I see woman, I say she. And that's, I think, how the majority of people operate. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, I'm 100%. So this is what I always say, and why I say I'm a transsexual. I am not trans. I am a person who was born female, didn't feel female, wanted to become a man, whatever that means, and now I live as a man. And so I get why people who see people who say they're male but they look like female are all confused, and that's why now we have to shove in pronouns. That's the reason why we have to have pronouns, because people can't tell if you're a man or a woman. If you're identifying as a man but you're still looking like a female, people are calling you she, and you get pissed off about it. It's like you have to have some understanding and compassion for the rest of the world trying to catch up with your own self-identification. I always looked male. Always. I mean, I could show you little pictures of me as a little kid. I look like a little boy. I was always, misgendered and all of those things. But it was something that I made an effort to do. I make an effort. This is not a privilege. I make an effort to look this way. I work hard to look this way. It's not something that just was given to me because I take testosterone. And so I get backlash for passing now. You're not supposed to pass as a man. I'm like, but wait a minute. I had a sex change. I had a sex change to look like a dude. So that's some of the stuff that kind of irritates me now. The newer generation coming after me for passing, or even maybe you, Blair, or maybe even you, Marcus, or I don't know. But that's what I get now. I get hate for passing.
Yeah, it's just so funny because like the entire concept for me, at least when I transitioned, was like I'm transitioning to be perceived as the opposite sex. Like that's the entire point, and now you get attacked for it.
Miyoko, welcome to the channel. Hello. Nice to see you.
Hi.
Hi. So before we, because we got a little bit into some of these questions here, but I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself and also tell us a little bit about you and what you hope that people will take from this conversation.
Well, I don't even know where to begin. My name is Miyoko, and obviously I'm a trans woman. Well, I don't know if that's obvious, but that's and I don't know. I mean, generally the reason why I decided to go on YouTube and social media and talk about these issues is because I feel like it's affecting me in a way that I'm not very fond of, and I don't really subscribe to all of the crazy ideology that's going on. And yeah, I don't know. I guess what I want people to take away from it is that I'm a, person that doesn't really take myself too seriously. And I think that the trans community should learn a thing or two about that. Yeah, I don't know.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be here on this panel. We just got in, you came in the middle of people answering about what they think about pronouns. And I was just saying how I'm a very visual person. And if I see man, I say he. If I see a woman, I say she. So I want to just pass the question off to you. What is your take on this sort of militant, you need to address me in the correct pronoun? How do you feel about that?
I feel like you have to earn your pronouns. Like if you don't look like a woman, don't expect people to address you by female pronouns. If you don't look like a man, don't expect people to address you by male pronouns. Like I feel like it's just that's just how we are built as humans, to recognize a man and a woman. And what makes this whole pronoun issue even more difficult to deal with is that you have people that do not present in such a way that supports the pronoun they want to be addressed as. And then they get mad at you for not getting with the program. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't subscribe to the whole pronoun thing. It's not my thing. If you look like a woman, I'm going to address you as a woman. If you tell me that you have preferred pronouns, then most likely what I'm going to do is I'm going to just address you by your name, because I just feel like, the whole they, them, ze, zer, blah, 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 blah. Like, I'm just not into it. I'm really not into it.
Okay. All right.
Just one thing I would like to add to what she said is like, I feel as though, because you mentioned people who present the opposite way of the way that they claim they want to be addressed. I feel like it's because so many people now, their entire life is centered around receiving value from being a victim. So it's almost like this self-fulfilling prophecy. Like So these people's ideology is that it's the worst thing in the world to be misgendered and they're victims and the world's out to get them. It's a very self-defeatist attitude. It's like they don't care to change their appearance because secretly, subconsciously, they actually enjoy being victimized. It's their entire sense of value and purpose.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so go ahead, Marcus.
Oh, I also want to say that us transsexuals, we can also misgender other transsexuals like by mistake.
And I think we do.
Yeah, I mean, we all can make mistakes because, as you said, like we are visual people. So it's yeah, we're all humans and we can make mistakes, and we also recognize how if you look like a woman, you're a she. If you look like a man, you're a he. So
I want to add auditory to that also, because you know, if you don't see me, if you see me, it's like, okay, you know, that's at least trying to be a girl. So like, you know, it's a little bit easier. But if you just hear me, like, Blair, you sound great. Miyoko, you sound great. Me, you would not tell. Like, you would be like, oh, which is funny because when I was growing up, you know, and I was working at Taco Bell, the people in the drive-thru, they'd be like, yes, ma'am. And I'd be like, oh, that, you know, that catches me. I'm sorry, I didn't know I was that squeaky, but here, you know, here we go. Like, but and it's still like it wouldn't affect me that much because it doesn't matter. Like, who cares what people call you? And I've always said this to Vanessa too. Like, if you're talking to me, use my name. Why are you're not going to say, hey, how are he doing today? Like, you're going to say my name, or you're going to say you know, if you're talking about me, I don't give a shit what you say. If I'm being honest, like, it doesn't matter. Use whatever you want to use. Like,
I think that's also a very reasonable standpoint, because the thing that a lot of these trans activists fail to realize is that the idea of being trans isn't something that's widely accepted. And I think a reasonable middle ground is to just address the person by name, because then if we're trying to avoid hurt feelings, there you go, just address them by name. I think when it gets down to this militant, like, no, you need to adhere to these pronouns, now it's like, okay, well, who are you transitioning for? Are you transitioning for you? Are you transitioning for the public?
That part.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, this is what communists do. They try to control language. They change language. They use language to avoid critical thought. If they can't figure it out or solve a problem based with their own ideology, they change the language until they figure it out. So there's no, like, it's not a surprise that so many people that subscribe to this insane gender ideology also subscribe to communism. Like, just keeping it real. You see pronouns in bio and a little communist symbol.
Yeah.
How often we see the hate we get and who we get it from? It's these motherfuckers.
That's right.
It's interesting because I went on a debate panel the other day, which is like a terrible mistake, but whatever, live and learn. And during this conversation, I spoke about this idea of gender theory and queer theory being taught in schools to young kids. And I made the connection to Marxism, and people looked at me like I had 5 heads. So I want to ask you all, what do you think about this sort of education being implemented in schools? Do you think that even moving away from the Marxist tactics, do you think that this is even something that's beneficial for kids to be exposed to this non-binary, I self-identify as whatever? Tell me why or why not?
Well, it is a Marxist tactic though. We can get away from that, but at the same time, it should be noted that it's this idea that your children don't belong to you, they belong to the state, that you're not an individual, we live in a collective, and so the state decides what your child learns. So that's where you see that coming in. But at the end of the day, for me, I don't think this gender ideology has anything to do with teaching your children to be respectful, to be kind if they see people who are different than them, to treat people like they're equals, even if they're different. I don't think any of that needs to involve teaching 5-year-olds about you can be a girl if you want to be a girl, and you can take hormones, you can go on puberty blockers, and teaching them about sex acts before like they even realize what sex is. Like, for me, it's very disturbing. And as someone who would want to be a parent in the next few years, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be homeschooling my kids just based on the trajectory of which the public education system is going. Right. I think that sexuality and gender ideology is something that can be taught by parents. And if parents don't know enough about it, they can just teach their kids to be respectful, and your kids will figure it out. They're going to exist in the world for many years past their childhood where they're exposed to all types of things. They're not stupid. You don't have to shove it down their throat.
That's right.
I think that's kind of what I was thinking a little bit too. Like, in my eyes, I feel like when I remember being in school, I had a lot more problems than my identity. Like, I don't necessarily want to think about kids being taught, oh, I should worry about more of myself. It's like, no, you already got a lot going on. Like, why don't you just exist as a child and exist as a teenager, and then, worry about how, So I want to make a very clear distinction. I do think that there is not enough teaching on emotional awareness in schools, and I think that can kind of at some point be tied in. I think if they were taught to be more emotionally aware when they're younger, it will help them when they're eventually going through the process of thinking that they might be trans, but or coming to the conclusion, however you would like to say it. But when you're going through those ages of learning, it shouldn't be on your mind. There's too much stuff going on.
So I want to piggyback off Blair. I do have a kid. I have a 9-year-old child in school, and I have him in a private school for a reason, because I don't like that. And I do not agree that my child should be learning about gender ideology and sexuality and all of and I'm a person who works in the sex business. And I'm telling you, it is not something I want like you said, children don't need to be having this lumped on top. Kids are kids. I'm around them all day. I coach soccer. I'm like around these kids, and I know they don't want, that's just so far from what they're into at all. You know what I mean? They're not. So why are we laying that on top of them? And why are we introducing trans to these young kids? Of course, they're all going to take it on. They're going to be like, that's me. I'm a little bit over here. And they're all why we have so many youth taking on this identity of trans says something to me, because they didn't know that word before. And now all of a sudden, all these 10-year-olds on TikToks are like, I'm a trans person. And that is really dangerous behavior, because these kids are getting lumped and sucked into some ideology that has nothing to do with why I transitioned, or why probably all of the people in this room who transitioned did it. And so for me, I'm very angry about it. I'll be honest with you. I'm angry that teaching children that shit, and that children need to be children. And we're taking away their youth. We're taking away their innocence by all of a sudden lumping on all this identity choice. And my kid doesn't even know anything about trans, and his dad is a trans guy.
I love that. I was going to ask you, because as someone who also wants to be a parent, I was like, I wonder if his kids know yet. So that's interesting. But
that's right. He doesn't need to know. You know what I mean? He just doesn't need to know. It's not I'm a dude. I'm his dad.
Yeah.
That's right. It's not like that. Yeah.
Wait, is Buck Angel, is that your name to your child?
Yeah, he knows me as Buck Angel, but that's not my legal name. Of course he does, because I tell him what kind of work, that Dad does this stuff on Instagram. Dad, he's 9. He wants to be on YouTube. I'm like, no, you're not.
I love it.
It's like kids will figure it out, and sometimes it's just best to let them figure out when they figure it out. You know what I mean? And if your kid is trans, and if what you're concerned about is that they're not learning enough about it to figure out if they themselves are not trans, your kid's gonna figure it out regardless. I wasn't taught about being trans as a kid, and guess what? I was 4 years old being like, you know what? I probably should. Like, it's gonna be there regardless of these woke, gross teachers forcing it on them. And I say gross because they literally look gross a lot of the time. If you go to the libs of TikTok, Twitter,
it's the best.
The fucking teachers that are on there being like, I taught my kids about pronouns today. Like, you're a fucking loser. Like, teach them about math. Teach them about math. Or better yet, can we implement teaching kids how to do taxes?
Thank you.
If it really fucking matters. Like, my kid doesn't need to know about fucking 97 genders.
That's right.
Was anybody in here in school taught about trans at all?
No.
I didn't even know what trans was until I started questioning my own identity when I was around 15, 16. And I don't know if I'm from Denmark, just so everyone knows, in Europe, and I've never heard about it before. So I've always had dysphoria, but I couldn't put it into words. And then when I found out, I think it was through YouTube or something, I'm like, maybe this is the pain I'm having or dealing with. So even though you don't teach kids and they are truly trans, they're going to find out eventually.
They find it out. They feel it. You feel it. I felt it. It was a feeling. It was like, something's weird. Like, something is going on here.
And that's such a good point because, you know, I think that I probably learned a little bit more about like the roadmap of how to transition and how to make the things happen that I wanted to happen through watching like sort of the OG YouTube influencers that were trans, like Gigi Gorgeous and a couple others. But what was different about people like that is like they weren't political about it. It was just like her living her life and you just kind of learned from it. And so I think that it's okay to be, because I have a lot of young people who follow me, but it's about being responsible with the platform. And it's not about indoctrinating. It's about being like, this is my life and you're free to take from it what you will, but don't think that because it was right for me, it was right for you necessarily, you know?
Very good. So I want to piggyback off of Marcus. You actually mentioned gender dysphoria. And one of the common narratives that I see with trans activists is this sort of rejection of the idea that being a transsexual has anything to do with gender dysphoria. They're trying to separate themselves from a mental illness. So I want to know, what is everyone's take on here? Do you subscribe to this idea that you have gender dysphoria, or do you think it's separate from being trans?
Gender dysphoria is the only reason why I am trans.
I don't understand why anyone would want to transition if they are not dysphoric. Like, what's the point?
Period.
Those are the, I would honestly, and this is gonna upset. Those are fake trans people to me. They're fake.
100%. It's ideological for them. It's not biological. It's ideological. My earliest memories in life were gender dysphoria. Being in preschool, where some people don't even have memories spanning back that far, feeling like I wanted to hang out with the girls and I wanted to be in the girls' area of the playroom and whatever. Like earliest memories in life. And this idea that, so what is the argument here? So is the argument that we're born this way, or is the argument that we're not? Because to me, that's gender dysphoria. You have that from childhood. It never really goes away. Transitioning can alleviate it in some people. And without that, what are we even talking about? What is the mechanism that makes someone feel as though they're the opposite gender then? Because then you're bordering on like almost like a religious thing. Like, is it just like your spirit, your soul? I don't believe in souls. I think it's a disconnect in my brain.
Right. I don't think any of us like have self-hatred necessarily, but I don't know a damn single trans person that would be like, I choose to be that. Like, I choose for my life to be harder. What?
But some people do choose for their lives to be harder. These professional victims online who grew up probably without a problem in the world, grew up in some white suburban household, and they're like, how do I create a problem and create sympathy online for myself? Oh, I know, I'm trans, they, them, Caesar, fuck you.
I think trans has become an identity. So trans is an identity now. Where when I transitioned, it was really it's a medical condition. I did not feel I had to go from female to male, and I did it because I have gender dysphoria, and I never felt okay with myself. That's a medical condition, and it is not an identity choice. I am not trans. I'm a man who happens to be a biological woman. That's a transsexual person, and we have gender dysphoria. It's real simple. Everyone in here knows it's simple. But they had to fucking tear it apart and make this whole new thing. And what you said, they co-opted it and they made it into a thing because I believe, what do we all know here? Power in numbers. The more people you get on board to this new ideology, the more powerful this thing becomes. And so now they're indoctrinating children. And I'm not cool with that. That is an actual indoctrination for a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old to be like, I'm trans, even though I don't even know what that means. That's an indoctrination.
Yeah.
Right.
I was actually going to ask something on that, just because of us being on the topic with children. I just read a couple of articles that it does show that most of Gen Z now kind of like identifies as the LGBTQ. And do you think it's because you, like you mentioned, Buck, you're talking to a lot of children. Do you think it's because of so many children now considering themselves being part of the community that it's a lot more hostile and it is a lot more irrational? It's because of more 100%. Younger audience thinking that they're part of the community.
That's right, 100%. And then they push against people like us who are like, well, wait a minute here. Have you diagnosed? You don't even need a diagnosis. You just say I'm self-ID. Self-ID is the most insane thing. Okay, I don't care if you self-ID and you change and you just do social change and you just wear a t-shirt and look like a dude. But when you start taking hormones and surgery and you're 13 years old and you're doing all this stuff, that's irreversible. And I said it again, irreversible. There's no way that cutting your boobs off is not irreversible, or taking hormones is not irreversible. Look
it
at me.
makes you infertile.
You
It
can't
definitely
look at me.
it changes you.
There's
You're
no-
accepting
They're
a lot.
lying. They're lying to parents. They're lying to children. They're lying about the whole thing. And I won't stand for it. I would die if my child came home today and said, I'm going to be a trans person. And then me as a parent, you know, that I can't even say anything now. We're cut in California. We're cut off from our kids. If they say they're trans, and there's nothing you can do about it. And they have to go to take hormone. It's so insane, you guys. It's insane.
The level of responsibility that's on top of taking hormones and all that. Also, you're adding a lot to a kid's plate. You're adding a lot.
Yes. And again, it goes back to this idea of your child belongs to the state, not to you. You're exactly right saying that you would be cut off if your kids came together today. They can go to Planned Parenthood and get hormones. And I started my transition in California, and I didn't have to go to therapy before I went on hormones. I just walked in and said, hi, I want to be a girl. And they wrote me a prescription. Now, two things can be true at once. That worked out for me. I'm really trans, but that is insanely problematic for someone who is making a mistake. I've interviewed several detransitioners on my channel, and their stories are some of the most heartbreaking stories I've heard. Like young teenage girls who 16 already cutting their breasts off, undergoing hormone replacement therapy, their voices getting permanently deep, growing beards, and now all of a sudden by the age of 18 can't even legally drink a beer yet, are realizing they changed their gender and it was a mistake. Like, it's a huge problem, and we're seeing the birth of it right now because we're seeing this explosion of wokeism. But 10 years down the line, there's going to be an insane amount of backlash towards our community and towards us. But like, I'm probably going to go into hiding in the next 10 years. Like, the clock is ticking for how long I'm even okay with being publicly seen as a trans person. I'm probably going to go into hiding eventually.
And I think that's also what I keep trying to convey to a lot of these woke people is because like when they say Gothix has transphobic takes, and then I say, hey, look at my trans friend, not to say, hey, look at this, they agree with me, but just to make the point that this matter isn't a transphobic issue. It's a political issue. It's an ideological issue. There is a split in the community, and if you're not taking the words of other people in that community, then you need to just admit that you're helping facilitate a specific agenda. But I want to circle back because, Buck, you're very passionate about this topic, and you know, Saul and I had an opportunity to speak to you on another podcast, and you mentioned something about the surgery industry surrounding trans people. Can you explain a little bit about that?
It's going to blow everybody's mind if you don't already know, but you know, pretty much all you guys know. So I started looking into this. I'm like, why is this becoming so huge? Why are we transitioning children medically, right? Medically meaning we're giving them hormone blockers at like 5. And I'm like, hormone, I mean, your puberty is very important. As we all know, everyone goes through puberty. It's not subjected just to trans people. But that being said, I started looking into it. Long story short, people are sending me stuff and they're like, dude, they're monetizing the trans community. I'm like, what? No, they're totally doing. So they sent me a link to marketwatch.com, which is basically a stock market website. There it is. It literally says right there, invest in transgender surgery. In 5 years, it'll be a $5 billion industry. That's it. I was like, what? So they're telling people to invest in it because it's actually going to explode and become a $1 billion industry. Yep. It's an industry. That's what people need to see. It's an industry. They don't care about us. They don't care about those kids. And neither do doctors anymore. We have trans doctors. We have trans therapists. We have affirming trans therapy. Affirming, what does that even mean? Therapy is when you go in and you say, I feel this way. And the therapist gives you pushback and says, wait a minute here. Are you sure? That's the whole point of therapy. That's not therapy anymore. Therapy is, okay, sure, you're trans. Here you go. And that's what Blair is saying. You watch. There's going to be such an insane a pushback of detransitioners, of everyone saying no one helped me. They gave me medicine. They cut my boobs off at 13, like all of that stuff. I mark my words, Mark Blair's words, and whoever else agrees that it's going to happen. And that's why we speak out. I don't want to be on the side of that. That is sickening and gross. And it's not what being trans is about. It's about helping us to move into the world and live as people like we are. And I think all of us here live that way. And so why don't people see us? Why don't they see what we did and how we got to this space? We didn't just transition. We took our time and did our thing.
And guess who is going to face the brunt of the backlash when it inevitably comes? It's already here, but it's going to get 20 times worse, I guarantee you. It's people like us that are going to take it. These little they, thems that are trans to be the flavor of the week.
That's right.
They're not going to be that in 10 years.
That's right.
They're living whatever life they were probably destined to live before.
That's right.
Like, these people are going to, once the fad is over, and it's not popular to have he, she, z, them in their fucking bio, and it's not popular to be hashtag non-binary on TikTok. Once the fad is over, these people go back to living their plain, boring, victimless lives. And we're the ones that are going to be looking crazy, and people are going to be saying, Blair, why the fuck did you allow all these? I'm like, I'm not talking about it at the beginning, bitch.
It's true.
I think what's really unfortunate is that I would probably bet that a lot of those people actually have some kind of mental issues, but it's not gender dysphoria.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Pete, that's the main thing is every detransitioner I've interviewed on my channel, and every single one of the hundreds of emails I've gotten from these people who do detransition, they always say it's the common thread. They were misdiagnosing. There was something else missing in their life. There was some other, screw that was not screwed that they needed to identify. But it's so easy to assume that it's this because you have the affirming care, like Buck said, that you go in and you have a diagnosis within seconds of these, gender clinics and stuff that, oh, okay, I figured out my problem. I'm trans. The gender clinic said so. When in reality, maybe it's that you have depression. Maybe it's you have anxiety. Maybe you're not dealing with the molestation you had when you were 5. It could be so many things. And so that is the main thing. It's also, there are statistics that a lot of trans people deal with intersecting mental illnesses and problems because oftentimes it's confused.
Yeah, I have to say that an observation, I think you made it earlier, Blair, is when we look at the general group that seems to be combative with our type of mindset, a simple check is go to their Twitter profile and you see a bunch of pronouns in their bio and you can usually come to a certain conclusion. And it was really, like I mentioned earlier, it was really eye-opening this week when, Brighton I announced that Brighton was my community manager, and I had a lot of trans activists just descend on the thread. And I think Miyoko got involved at one point. And there was this back and forth, and I landed on one part of the thread in particular. I forgot where you were, Miyoko, at this point, but there was one part of the thread where someone challenged one of these trans activists and said, why do you keep persisting? Why do you keep coming back to Gothix's profile to acknowledge that she's a transphobic TERF? She obviously isn't interested in changing her opinion. So what is the point of this? And their response stuck out to me. They said, what? So I'm just supposed to take this emotional abuse? And and there lies the problem, because there seems to be a lack of self-awareness, because in my opinion, if I see something that is emotionally abusing me online, I just close out of the page.
They're
yes.
Lying. And this is the thing. They're not trying to protect trans people. They're trying to protect their ideology. They don't give a fuck about trans people, which is why they bullied, oh my God, her name, Dave Chappelle's trans friend into suicide.
Oh, great point.
Which is why, if you, like I said, look up my name on any trans Reddit, it's like the most abusive, disgusting things anyone could ever say about another human. And it's just like run of the mill, nothing for them to say. It's why they attack everyone on this panel so viciously.
Yeah.
If they give a fuck about protecting trans people, they would not attack trans people for disagreeing with their ideology. If anything, they would chop it up and maybe just focus on Gothix. But the fact that they're going toward Brighton, or they're going towards me, or towards Buck, or towards Miyoko, like, they don't give a fuck. They're monsters. I hate these people. I genuinely hate these people. I don't people think it's uncouth for me to say I fucking hate them.
All right. Well, I think this is a great segue to actually talk about the recent stand-up special that Dave Chappelle had. Blair, we actually already had a conversation on this. For those that don't know, I collaborate on another channel. If you just look up Rightly AJ, me and her had a conversation regarding this Dave Chappelle special, but now I want to pass the question off to everyone here. Do you think that jokes, comedy, should not come at the expense of trans people?
I love comedy when it comes to trans people. Like, if it's funny, it's funny, you know, like I want to laugh, like I want to join in with everybody else that gets made fun of. And as I said, when I joined this conversation, like I don't take myself too seriously. And I think that the trans community needs to learn that tool, because not everybody is going to treat you the way you want them to treat you. And in terms of like comedy has always been unhinged, and you know, everybody can get it. And I think that, you know, Dave Chappelle in particular, his last special wasn't necessary. I mean, it was funny, but I think it was more so about the message than it was about the comedy aspect of it. And I fucking loved it. I loved every single minute of it. And even just the ending, like I went into it thinking that, okay, let me write down all of the transphobic things that he said, because everybody is going online talking about how he's so transphobic and he hates trans people and blah, 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 blah. So I literally had a notepad out and I was like watching attentively, like, okay, let me just list down the things that he said so I can like unpack them for everyone else. But not a single fucking thing, not a single fucking thing. And it ended up just being this really beautiful dedication to his trans friend.
Yeah.
I love that. And also, and I think that's also the thing that people miss is when they're criticizing this comedy special that he did it to shine a light on the hypocrisy of a lot of these trans activists, where his friend who was trans was mercilessly attacked on social media for a week, and then she ended up committing suicide. Now, whether or not that was related to a lot of these trans activists going after her, I'm not sure, but as someone that's dealt with cancel culture, I can tell you that emotionally it will put you in a dark place. And I think that like this is the unfortunate consequence, I think, of just living in an echo chamber and thinking that everything is transphobic and hurtful. And clearly, Miyoko, you were able to watch this. Were you depressed? Were you emotionally distraught after watching this stand-up special?
No, I was not. But like, I felt very touched by it. Very, very, very touched by it. And I find it so just like unbelievable that I don't hear anything about Daphne online. Like all of these trans activists, she's like a ghost. Nobody knows who she is. All they focus on is Dave Chappelle and like the supposed transphobic shit he said.
Because they killed her. They killed her.
Exactly. That, and
That's
like
right.
Anybody with like 2 brain cells will know that
That's
bullying contributed to that result. Like it's just shameful. It's absolutely shameful.
So I think one thing, Miyoko, that you said that I would like to extend is it's not the trans community, like it's the LGBT, like this whole powerful system of people that are like, it's like, and then every time they add a letter, it feels like it's getting more hostile. So like we need to stop with that. But like, so this like the LGBT, it's like they can't take jokes. It's like it's almost the same thing earlier as like, if you don't like somebody, just stop looking at their page. It's like, if you don't like the comedy, turn it off. You don't have to fight it. Like, just don't watch it.
Just don't watch it. But, you know, I remember, I come from such an old school space. We make fun of ourselves constantly. Like the old gays, they have the best comedy. Are you kidding me? Like, I don't know who these people are that are so upset. And also, we forget he made fun of everybody. Do you see the Jews getting pissed off? Do you see, you know, like whoever he made fun of, which was Asians, everyone, they're not getting pissed off. It is such an elitist, like entitled space to say, it's only about the trans people. Plus, I always say this. What happened to Black Lives Matter? That is a black comedian. Fuck you. You are taking out a black man who literally started from here and worked all the way up to get to his space. And you're trying to take out a black dude now? And how come nobody's talking about that? I don't care how powerful he is. He's still a black dude who made it from the bottom all the way to the top. And so, you know what? Like, what about that?
Exactly. Yeah.
So I actually want to play a quick little clip that was sent by Buck, actually, and I want to get everyone's opinion on this. So for context, I hear a lot of police officers in the background. Hope you're all okay.
That's my house. That's
So the controversy surrounding Dave Chappelle, for those that don't know, it was a Netflix special, and I guess some people organized some type of a walkout and a protest because of how transphobic his comedy special was. And the woman that organized this protest or walkout or whatever, I'm going to play a clip, and I hope that.
And I'm the organizer.
Okay, hold on. Lovely. I hope that, I'm just going to play. Again, this is the person that organized this. Let's go.
For the Stand Up and Solidarity rally. My entire career, everything that I've done has been about pushing boundaries. It has been about holding people accountable.
I just cussed that Asian bitch clean the fuck out.
We expect more.
You mess up my order and then blame me? English is my first language, bitch.
And so
I know it's a lot to ask in California, but speak fucking English. Yeah, I said it.
we also pour social equity into these spaces. We
Just broke my phone on this Asian bitch's head.
Dave Chappelle doesn't get to suck all of the light out of that. And so the thing that I felt most troubled by is
Latino and Asian businesses need to stop being rude and fucking disrespectful.
they don't have the same equity.
This Asian nigga in Subway got a fat ass.
They don't have the same opportunity.
He almost looks like a bitch from behind. Hashtag shaking my head.
Okay, I think that pretty much summarizes that situation.
Hypocrites, 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 hypocrites.
This is what I
my
mean.
God.
These people are so full of hate and they project so hard.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
she tried to get that thing taken off the internet so fast. She was making all kinds of excuses. Oh, I was on crack. I was on meth. I was on. But guess what happens when you're on crack, meth, and coke? You actually tell the truth because it's literally in your brain. So you can say all you want, my friend, but you said it. You said it and you got busted.
I do believe she was on crack.
Yeah.
Probably still is. But
So was I. So what?
Oh,
so what? Been making an Asian.
That's right. So is anyone going to hold her accountable? This is what I'm speaking to the community out there. I'm not speaking to you guys. I'm speaking to the community. Are you going to hold Ashley Marie Preston accountable for her racism, her hypocrisy, and she's trying to hide all that? So I want my community to know, stop being hypocrites. And if you're going to hold me responsible for something I said, okay, you need to hold everybody responsible in this community for their bullshit. So that's all I'm saying.
As long as you simply call yourself a liberal or a progressive, you get away with anything. This is the same reason the trans community has never called out Alok Vaid Manon, who's made pedophilic comments.
That's right.
Okay? Like we have actual predators in the community
Fuck off.
who you don't hear a peep from the activists about. No one cares to criticize them at all. There's people in the trans community still to this day who have never even uttered Jessica Yeneve's name despite knowing about the story. So of course you're not going to call out her for some old racist tweets. You can get away with anything when you're a leftist.
That's right. But she needs to be held accountable, and I'm not gonna stop until she is. Just so you know, I'm not.
oh, right. I love that energy. I love it.
One thing I really find annoying about that protest was the drag queen you saw in the back. Can't pronounce his name. He's really famous. I'm sorry, their name. It's a they them. It's a they them, and he said something about us trans people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're not trans.
That's right.
So stop being offended on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody on Twitter. Everybody on Twitter, listen to that. Stop being offended on our behalf.
On our behalf, totally.
Seriously.
White liberals love to be offended on trans.
That's
people.
true.
They don't have shit going on in their life, and
That's
they need a
true.
cause. So they're like, I'm going to stand up for trans people, even if it means telling Blair White to kill herself on Twitter. I'm sticking up for trans people.
I love it when someone tries to bully me. If I'm being honest, I laugh so hard when I get called a faggot, and I think it's wonderful. Like, so it's like, wait, why are you getting offended for me when I'm not even offended? It's so confusing.
Honestly.
I don't get it. Miyoko, I want to ask you a question because, as we collaborated on a video, that trans agenda video that Marcus was also in. And I put you in that video specifically because one of the common rhetorics that I hear is that Black trans women are the most oppressed class of trans people. So as a Black woman, how do you feel about what would be your response if I told you that you don't feel oppressed because you suffer from survivorship bias? How do you feel about that? Because I have read
think
this in the
that
comment
is-
section.
I remember you messaged me and you told me that there was a comment about me or whatever. And I read that comment and I was like, what the fuck is survivorship bias? And then I had to look it up and I was like, imagine like demonizing accountability and like responsibility. Like, my thing is that I never looked at myself as a victim, never. And like, I never thought that my life was significantly harder than anybody else's just because of the fact that I'm Black. And my parents never taught me about racism per se. It's like, sometimes there's like an incident where like, someone might treat us a certain way and then my mom might say, oh, they're racist, blah 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 blah, but it was never like a sit down, okay, listen, so in this society you're never going to make it past a certain point because of your skin color. Like, there was never that conversation, there was never like that kind of implication at all. The only thing that I was really taught was that you need to carry yourself in a presentable way, don't look lawless or else you'll be targeted by the police. Like, just conduct yourself in such a manner that is to be respected. And like, that's just how I've always been. And like, when I started my transition, I didn't really know what being trans was, because this was like 2003, and like, it wasn't a thing. Like, social media didn't exist, and so like, I was navigating this world as like a trans youth by myself, plus the fact that I'm Black. And like, I just moved forward, I just did whatever needed to be done, and I didn't think about if something didn't go my way and I attributed it to like because of the fact that I'm Black and maybe that person was white or Asian or whatever. Like, I never looked at things like that. And because of that mentality, I've been able to just push through and get everything that I wanted, and I feel like Black people in particular, or Black trans women in particular, need to stop victimizing themselves and recognize that their empowerment comes from within, not from these like activists and like these groups that try to push these narratives forward that you don't have any power because white people exist. And I just feel like when it comes to being Black and trans, that we have to see ourselves as just like everybody else, like everybody else.
I was actually going to ask you, if you don't mind me asking, so obviously you're Black and you're trans. Does it get more annoying when you then become a Black trans person? Like, because then at that point you're being lumped into this other category. Like, you're no longer just trans, you're a Black trans.
Only when I am in LGBTQ environments. That's the only time that I feel like I am this, like, everybody wants to make sure that what they're saying isn't problematic, or that like I get my fair share of whatever. Like, it's like people just like overcompensate when I'm in the room. And it's like, I don't give a fuck about any of that shit. Like, I just want to be around people and do whatever and like hang out. Like, I don't care about language. I don't care about privileges. I don't care about like all of these like systems and structures that these people created in order to benefit themselves and make them feel good about being a so-called good person or some kind of a savior or whatever for like marginalized groups or whatever. Like, I don't think of myself as a fucking marginalized group. Like, I'm a human just like everybody else. And I do things however I want.
And it's not a good feeling to have people walk on eggshells around you. Like, from my
isn't.
Whenever I'm around
because
people,
you feel like they're not being honest.
Yeah, it's awful. Like, I think it was like a few weeks ago, like someone who is like a newer friend made some kind of statement like, hey guys, come over here, or something general like that. And then a few minutes later, it came up to me and was like, just so you know, when I said guys, like, I promise. I was like, girl, fuck you. This person doesn't know me through YouTube. It's like I'm just like, girl, Google me and find out if you think I'm going to be like offended. By so
Ridiculous.
Yeah,
It
like I
happens
use
so
the word
frequently.
bro a lot, and I
Me
piss off
too.
a lot of trans people when I say that. And I do it on purpose. I do it on purpose. And I'm just like, bro, like what the fuck? And like, I'm not a bro. Like I'm a girl or like whatever. And it's just like, you know, you're taking yourself a little too seriously. Like calm the fuck down.
Yeah,
So I
I'm-
have always been against man and bro, but not because I care about the gender. It just sounds dumb. So I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, just don't call me bro. Not because I'm a woman, but because you sound a little like I don't know what to tell you. Like,
It does sound dumb. I like it because it sounds ignorant. And
Hey,
when I'm in one of
right
those
on.
ignorant moods, I use it. So
right.
Speaking of race, I think it's interesting how they use that against us. I know that, I mean, I'm mixed race. My middle name Deep is Arabic, and I have Arabic background. And I know Blair, you're also mixed, right?
yes.
But they call us white, and they use it often as an insult, like you're a white trans person for your privilege and all this. And it's so
thank
weird
you.
how they're so obsessed with race. And it's also funny how when I correct them and say I'm actually not 100% white or whatever you want to call it, they just, well, you're white passing.
Like passing.
Yeah,
it's
Yeah.
So they just
so
gonna
complicated.
ignore- They just gonna ignore I can't speak the same language as my grandmother. Okay, that's fine.
Right. But you see how it goes back to what I said earlier. It's a self-defeating ideology. You can never be on the greener side of the fucking field, so to speak. It's like if you transition decently, suddenly you're villainized for passing. If you are, mixed race, but you look white, you're passing for white. So you're still the enemy. It's like they have to set up this like system in which there's always a villain. There always has to be a villain.
It's the reverse too. Like what you said, how it's passing. If you're not passing, you're not a good trans person. Like it's like what? Like there's a standard that is in people's heads that they want us to reach, and it's like, why do you get to determine that? Shut up, leave me alone. Stay out of my business.
The only solution is just to be your motherfucking self. Just be exactly who you are, do you, and just try to drown out these fucking insane voices. Like, because they don't mean anything at the end of the day, anyways. I mean, they're given way too much institutional power, and I'll say that. But at the end of the day, these people really are all losers. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding.
That's
like,
right.
I look at people like Buck and like Miyoko, like it's like they're happy, like they're successful, they're living their lives. Like these are the people you want to follow in their footsteps, not like these angry communists with green hair who like on welfare and like on welfare. Their ways.
Oh no, every day. I'm not kidding you. Every day I have somebody reach out to me to either pay for their top surgery or give them money. I'm like, what? What? Here's my Venmo. Here's my pay. I'm like, but why would I give you money? But I don't understand. And then once I said get a job, oh, forget it.
Transphobic.
Transphobic.
These people don't want to work for anything.
Nothing.
They don't.
It's crazy. That is bad. Okay, so that's the other thing that I'm just like, we're not teaching good fucking manners to these young generation. You got to learn to stand up and speak for yourself, go to school, get a job, get a profession, because in 5 years, trans is going to be nothing. And you're going to be standing there naked going, I'm a they, them, those, I have nothing. Zero, nothing. And that's why they're mad at all of us, because we have a lot. Not physical, not monetary or whatever, but we have a lot. And that being said, that we love ourselves, we care about ourselves. We're here, we are in this room right now because every single one of us gives a shit about the future, not just about trans, but about the world and about getting it so that I only want you to live your life. I don't give a fuck what you do. I just want you to live your life. But what I will not accept and not be okay with is when you start coming and attacking me for my own different belief system. And that's where we need to start having this real conversation, because those people are tearing us apart.
I just can't imagine. Like, it's like, if you want to be, all the other different shit people call themselves other than he, she, they, it's like, you want to be that, do it quietly. Just like, shut up. Like, give it to yourself. Give it to yourself.
I mean,
also
we're going backwards, you guys. We are going backwards. You know, the work we have done is being destroyed. We watch people hate us more than I can tell you that I have had a beautiful life before all this shit happened.
Me too.
That's right. I had a beautiful
Me
life.
too.
And now being trans is this horrible thing that people are like, are you one of those? And I'm just like, I don't have very few trans friends because of that situation. I cannot be in that bubble of hate. It's a bubble of hate. And it's, anyway, I'm going off, but that's how I feel.
No, I think that I personally, just from my observation, I think that there's this certain level of paranoia within a lot of the people that are trans and on the left, or maybe the trans activists, because I'm sort of on the same page as Miyoko, where sometimes I'll purposely, I like to say dude and bro sometimes, but when I'm dealing with someone like a they, them, or whatever, I intentionally say it because in my mind, I think I need to desensitize you from being so sensitive.
Exactly.
Yeah. And in the same way that you said with your personal life with regards to the survivorship bias is that you persevere regardless of whatever it is, you keep going. And when I had this sort of back and forth with all these trans activists in regards to, the situation with Brighton, I saw a lot of people commenting on the thread saying, why don't you stick up for yourself? Why don't you defend yourself? Like they couldn't even fathom a trans person not getting upset that someone misgendered them. Like it doesn't
I
even.
think it's more funny because I am sticking up for myself against them. And it's like,
Right on.
Understand. I actually feel like, and it's really sad to say, but for mostly leftist trans people, I feel sad for them because it's they feel like they have to do it or people will hate them. And it's it's really sad because no one's gonna hate you. People will probably like you more if or they might not like you more because people are really fucking fake, but you're more likely to find genuine relationships if you stop subscribing to all the fake bullshit that people will tell you will make you feel better.
Well, our community, you guys, and I use that term loosely because obviously on any given day, on any given day, we each individually probably feel less or more connected to the community. But the group, trans people as a group, in a lot of ways, are damaged in the sense that, I think I know a lot more trans people agree with us than people would ever think. And I know that because every day I have an LGBT person coming up to me on the street saying, I agree with you. I could never say it, but I agree with you. And it leads me to think what are they so afraid of in speaking their mind? And then you realize they lose their entire social circle, all their leftist friends, and they also have this preconceived notion that people more so on the right or the rest of the world outside this progressive bubble aren't going to be their friend. Where do they go to if they leave their progressive bubble? And what I say is we have to stop being so concerned with having a tribe. I get as well, because I don't think any one of us can deny that there are people on the right that have an issue with trans people, partially because of the misconceptions based on their crazy activists, and partly because a lot of people on the right are also assholes as well. People are assholes everywhere. But I would rather be around genuine assholes who have a genuine thing about oh, I don't really know about trans people, than these people who are completely fake, who aren't advocating on my actual behalf, who are literally just fighting for some corrupt political ideology. And also, it would make it a lot easier for us to all speak up if we all spoke up.
Right, exactly.
Fuck Angel and Miyoko and Blair White and the offensive would not be offensive or seen as radical or seen as some rarity in the community if more of us just spoke up, because at the end of the day, a lot of people do agree with us. They just don't say it.
They're scared.
Yeah.
They're scared.
Yeah, they are.
I don't think people should be afraid of losing their little tribe, because why would you want to be a part of a tribe that demands that you adhere to a certain standard anyway? That's not a friendship to me. And I hope, at least my hope is a lot of people will watch this and they'll take away the fact that there's diversity of thought within trans people. But also, I think that this is a great opportunity for people to just, not stop being fearful, because it's going to help us all in the long run, because it's not even just a trans issue, it's also a liberty issue. Because Black, like you even said, if your kid says I'm trans and you're like, no, I'm not okay with that, you're the one that's going to get in trouble by the state.
I mean, I'm speechless. told her, they literally can take your kid away. You have no control over your child. This is California. I'm like, they're doing it in Canada. They're doing it. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I live in Vancouver, and there was a father that got arrested and put in jail because he didn't sign the consent form for his daughter to go on hormones.
That's
disgusting.
How old was she?
Wait,
she was
what law is that breaking?
I think she was like 13 or something.
Yeah,
or
she's
like,
a child.
What law is that breaking?
A literal child.
I mean,
what law is that breaking that would arrest
have
him?
to be stopped. This is why they have to be fucking stopped, and this is why I don't stop doing what I do. Not because I'm the end all be all. There's so many voices that I value so much, but like I'm never going to stop. I don't care how much they hate us. I don't care how much they throw at us. I don't care how much they dox us and threaten us. I don't give a shit because they're at this point they're hurting kids. And for a movement to gain acceptance in society, like one of the few things you don't really want to be seen as in terms of like a PR standpoint is a threat to kids.
Like, pretty much.
It's kind of one of those things that human beings and every other species on the planet, we're kind of biologically hard-wired to like protect young, species. And so like maybe don't come for the fucking kids.
Oh no, I will chew your arm off. Yeah. I'm not kidding. I will chew your arm off if you come into my house and try to take my kid away. I will. Yeah.
That's problematic. I'm just kidding.
The trans community is leaning very hard into stereotypes of being a danger to women and children.
Yes.
And they're doing
Thank you for saying that.
After thing after thing that reinforces that stereotype.
Thank you for saying that. You know, the whole woman thing, and as trans women in this room, the whole woman thing is upsetting to me because this trans women are women and and it's a difficult space because, okay, you're a woman. Look at you. You are. I'm a dude. Look at me. We know that. But the reality is we are not biologically men and women. We are the other way. And we have to accept that. And it's part of being trans. And it actually makes us coexist in the world. Why do we want to take space?
Right.
It's so gross, you guys.
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Like I would never look at Gothix and be like, I'm so sorry, your vagina, my vagina, same vagina. Oh wait, I don't have one yet. Wait, even after I get one, I'm not gonna have to deal with the same stuff as your vagina.
But me and Gothix both have vaginas, so there you go.
I'm not on the same.
I've gotten really comfortable with the idea of like. Okay, I think about 2 or 3 years ago is when I started reading a lot of science literature on transsexualism. And it's something that I didn't even really know existed because before that, I was relying on mysticism and ideology and being special and ethereal and whatever. But whenever I got into arguments with people, I would never have anything concrete to say as a rebuttal or anything, and I was so tired of people hammering me with facts, and all I had was my dear old precious ideology. And then so eventually what happened was I met this person on Facebook, and she introduced me to a book called I don't remember if it's The Man That Would Be Queen or The Boy That Would Be Queen, something like that, but it was basically a book of this scientist or psychologist or whatever that was created a book out of scientific studies. And that was the first time that I was introduced to the language, the clinical language that, scientists and psychologists use in terms in referring to transsexuals. And that was the first time I ever heard of the term homosexual, transsexual. And when I read that, I felt very attacked. I was like, I'm not a homosexual. I'm a woman. I had a problem with it. I had a huge problem with it. And I was like, okay, but this is interesting. This is fascinating. And I need to learn how to not be triggered by this information. And I continued to read it. And I got more desensitized to the words because I understand what it meant. I feel like the community has this habit of using male as a euphemism for man or female as a euphemism for woman because it sounds less harsh. But I got used to the fact that, okay, if someone else will call me a man, fine, I'm a man. Okay, what else is new? What else is going on? It's not that important. And so because of the fact that now I'm desensitized to that word, I can accept myself for what I am and who I am and all of that. So when people want to attack me and say, oh, well, that's transphobic, and that's no, what's transphobic is being ashamed of being trans.
Right
And
on.
when you
Exactly.
deny
Right on.
your biological reality, then that means you're ashamed of yourself.
I think one of my most favorite
Sorry, my head.
one of my most favorite interactions was actually on a dating site, and I think it was so funny. I was on Tinder, and it was a match that I got, and he matched with me just to say like, "Oh, isn't there a better site for you?" And I'm like, "But what's wrong with this one?" And he was essentially just like, "You're a man and you're always going to be a man." I was like, "Yeah, but one day I'll be a man with a vagina." And he was not thrilled about that response and immediately blocked me.
Yeah, I've done that too. Like there have been times where I'll talk to guys online and like because I'm not down to fuck, they want to like throw, oh, well, you're a man and whatever. I'm like, yeah, I am a man and you want to fuck a man in a wig. So, I mean, that's the problem that you have to deal with, So they always try to like turn it on me and they don't expect me to be like, okay, and what? They think that I'm going to crumble, but I'm not because, I'm real about mine.
It's powerful. You guys, it's so powerful to actually own your own shit. It's powerful to say, I used to be a woman, now I'm a dude, big fucking deal. Who cares? Because you can't get hurt from it. When people call me she, you don't think people call me she all the time. They tell you, I go, people are going to think you're a fucking nutcase. Look at me. I mean, it's like you go right ahead, but that's the powerful part of what those kids and the younger and this generation of ideology and nonsense is missing. If they really accept the reality of who they are, they will have such an easier time moving through the world. But we're giving them horrible tools. The tools they're being given are wrong. They're irresponsible. They're lies. They're lying to these people about who they are, and that's really sick.
It's sad because it's like, would I like to have been born a female? Obviously, it comes with a disorder.
Right on.
Do I want to be the female that deals with the periods? Of course not. You take that. I'll take the fake vagina. Thank you.
Well, it's interesting because so I'll get called self-hating whenever I talk about the fact that I'm biologically male. If I ever acknowledge it, which, let's be real, only really comes up in online discourse. Like I don't really see a situation in my real life where I have to talk about that or use those words. But online, I'll do that. I get called self-hating for it. Yeah. How am I self-hating for acknowledging an objective reality about my own physiology and not being upset about it and still living my life as a happy person? And then how are you not self-hating the fact that you cannot admit it to yourself? You hate that it's a thing. You're so mad about it that you want to get mad at me. You're the one that's self-hating. It's all projection. At the end of the day, we are mirrors for these people. And that's what they hate the most. It's like, I accept about myself what they hate about themselves. And at the end of the day, I don't know what it's like to be a biological. I don't know what it's like to be raised as a girl. I know what it's like to be a trans woman. And clearly two things to be true at once. There are some things that I can absolutely relate to my biological female friends on. I'm not going to sit here and say we're 1000% different, but there are obviously notable differences. Like I was born with a dick, you were not, honey. Like that's a big, difference. And it's also, there is something to be said about respecting female spaces, which is why for me, I would never enter a shower room in a gym where there are women, naked and then decide to get naked myself or what my anatomy is. I would never enter a space like that. And that's another thing that so many people are advocating for, that should just be a thing. And it's like, you have to know your lane. It's like, that's not my lane. It's like, I can be in the woman lane for a lot of things, but it's not going to be that,
That's you caring. That's you caring, Blair. You care.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell on the flip side, as a man, I go into the male gym. Men don't care. I walk around naked. No one cares. If there's kids in there, I will put clothes on. Dudes don't. Dudes are actually into it. They're like, let's go in the steam room. Dude. They're totally into it. But chicks, I was a chick. I went to the women. I know how women are. Women are different. They don't want to see penises in their space. They just don't want to see it.
And women are are to be respected. Women
That's
are to
right.
be respected.
Yes.
And guess what? If you want to be a motherfucking woman, maybe learn how to respect women.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
got him.
And
Yeah, I think it was very apparent that most of my female friends ended up like there was a clear divide of like I'm not a female, but like I acknowledge that you are, and it's actually helpful that I'm not, because like
that's right.
you tell me what's going on with my titties. Like, why do they hurt? You dealt with it. Tell me what's going on. Like,
That's
it's
puberty,
like
my friend, puberty.
exactly. But like, I'm not being raised as a girl now. Like I was raised as a boy. I was never told, okay, your titties are gonna hurt. You know who's doing that? My biological female friends. Like,
we can learn a lot from each other. At the end of the day, a lot of these celebrities and influencers and singers that you see out there in the media, like, guess who's doing their makeup and teaching them tricks? It's trans women. Guess who's teaching them about so many things? We can learn from each other, and we can ride in each other's lanes when we need to, and we can separate and split off when we need to as well. And I think that that's a beautiful thing, actually. And the fact that there's this push that trans women are women, and that's just the end all be all, and there's no nuance whatsoever. Like, are you retarded?
I hate that phrase
right
so much.
No one believes that. You're either retarded or you're lying. Either way, you need help.
So I got a quick question. And then I want to go into some rapid fire questions. Before I get into that, I saw Marcus nodding his head when Buck was talking about how the dudes in the bathroom, they don't really care. So as trans men, do you think that it's easier for you to kind of like be a trans man than it is trans women?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I also have some experience within the gay community because I am attracted to men, and they don't care. Like, I don't get these "you're a girl," or I don't get hate from gays who are attracted to me and then they find out and all this stuff. They're really curious, and I admire that. And yeah, I mean, all the hate I get, it's only online, because out in the real world, I respect people and they respect me. So it's so simple.
It's simple.
So-
and I just want to piggyback off that. But that being said, when I first started transitioning and then I was attracted to dudes, and I was like 20 something years ago, it wasn't like this, and men weren't okay with me. When I would say, hold up, wait a minute, I got to, because I'm all about disclosing who I am. I would never just go into someone's house and pull my pants down and I have a vagina, and they're like, what? That's totally insane. I know I look like I have a big dick. I have big dick energy. So just like that. So this one time I said to the dude, hey, I just got to let you know that like I was born female and now I'm a dude and I have a vagina. And his eyes were spinning around. He was like, what? And I go, no, seriously, dude. I used to be a woman. Now I'm a man. And he goes like this to me. He goes, I don't care. That's fine, dude. Let's go have some fun. And that was like 20 something years ago. And I was like, the dudes are different. They're just horny. Dudes are horny. They want to get it off. They don't care. There's no politics involved. And then that's it. We're done. So it's a whole different experience.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's hard for me to not empathize to an extent with women who are uncomfortable with the trans movement as it presents trans women, and some of the more, let's say, nefarious characters that come out of the trans activist sphere. Yeah. And I put myself in their shoes, and I think it's very easy to call them TERFs and write them off as evil. And some of them are a fucking mess, and some of them really do just have a hatred for trans people. But there are people in that sphere that also have a point about some things. It's like, maybe we shouldn't just blindly let trans women into women's spaces despite never having a surgery, or despite, you know what I mean? It's like the We Spot incident and the Jessica Yanni story and the kid in Virginia that was allegedly molested in the bathroom. Like, these things will continue to happen, and the community can either choose to ignore it because they have no real answer for it other than please keep submitting to our every demand. That's right. Or we can talk about it in a real sense.
That's right. And what happened to We Spa? Remember that whole thing? And then now no one talks about it anymore.
They thought it was a hoax, or not even thought. They wanted it to be a hoax.
They wanted
a whole TERF hoax. They just made it up to push their narrative forward. And then there was someone that got charged for it. And now it's like all of a sudden nobody, like, it never happened. The whole thing never happened.
That's
Right.
It's ridiculous.
ridiculous.
I remember
Absolutely
posting
ridiculous.
about it on my Instagram story, and I had just so much fucking hate. People, this is a hoax. Why are you being irresponsible sharing this? And I was like, I believe it. It sounds believable to me. And just like everyone else, I'm going to make a judgment call. And this seems like a factual thing. So I'm going to post about it. And it ended up being real. Go figure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
go figure. Totally.
All right. So, everyone, we are closing in on an hour and 30 minutes. And I think that this might be a good time to just do some quick fire questions. So I don't want to, take up too much of your Friday evening. I'm personally hungry myself. So we're gonna go down this list here, and you guys feel free to answer as openly.
I'm sorry, did you say you were hungry? I would like to call you out on that. Is it possible I told you to eat before and you didn't want to? I just wanted to call you out. Okay, go ahead.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
You were right. Okay, so first question. Feel free to open and let me know if you agree with this or disagree and why. Trans women in female sports.
No.
Disagree.
No, I'm an
No.
ex-athlete. There is a significant difference between a male and female body in terms of physical exertion. And I competed in gymnastics, track and field, cheerleading. If you put a male, okay, so in cheerleading, you have stunt groups. And if it's an all-female stunt group, the basket toss, when you throw someone in the air, it doesn't go as high. If you put at least one male in that group, they're flying in the air. Like, there's a significant difference between
That's a really
male
good example.
physicality. Yeah. And I noticed it all the time, even in like in gymnastics, the events. So females have a harder time doing male events, and males have a less difficult time doing female events. Because the thing about male events is that a lot of them deal with upper body strength, which is something that a lot of females don't have an abundance of. And if you see a female trying to do the pommel horse, she's going to struggle because she doesn't have wider shoulders. She doesn't have that higher muscle mass that is required to hold her body up by her arms and throw her legs around, whereas a man can do it very easily. And then even with like track and field, like I was the fastest kid in my school, and even the fastest girl in my school, she could not touch me. She could not, just absolutely
It's both sides. It's both.
Yeah.
Like when people say trans women in women's sports, it's no, but also no trans men in men's sports, because it's just not going to be the same.
Men
Like,
don't care. Men don't feel
Men don't
threatened.
care. And I think I think
care.
it's more like, I think, okay, if I was still an athlete, I would compete against men. I think that is more of a statement than me
Yeah.
competing against a
That's
woman.
right. Right on.
Like I would never feel like I achieved anything if I
Yep.
competed against a woman. Like it just doesn't make any sense.
You're
to me.
solid because you are solid. You're real. You're actually dealing with reality. Those trans
Yeah.
women athletes who are acting as if they're not threatening women in sports, they're not real athletes, because athletics, it also has what's called sportsmanship, and that's a real
Exactly.
athlete. That's sportsmanship. And when you know you're going to go in and crush somebody's skull because you can, then that's not sportsmanship.
No.
And if there's so many guys that want to play sports so damn bad, make a fucking trans league. Why can't you have a trans
Thank
league?
you.
Why you don't want to come out and
Exactly.
cry about it? Like,
right.
you.
Have a separate league.
But trans
Honestly,
women are women,
I believe that trans women should only probably be against trans women, and trans men should only be against trans men. I think
But
even
there's not enough of us. Like that's.
I know
think
there's
that's
not
the
enough,
reason
but
why.
if
Yeah,
there
there's just not
were,
enough.
if there were, it would be the
I would
most
love
sensible.
to see that. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
love to see that.
Totally.
All right, so I'm going to ask you this, Buck, because you call yourself a tranny a lot. What do you think about tranny or transsexualism being problematic to represent trans people? Because that's something that I've heard recently.
Well, what's problematic about it? It's my identity. It's what I choose to call myself. So if you're going to play that card, then I'm going to say, you know what? Queer bugs the shit out of me. I don't like they, them, those. And I don't like Z, them, zet. I don't like dragon, whatever it is. There's all these new things. So I can play the same. I don't know. That's a new one. I just saw it. I'm just like, what? And so I can't keep up. But that being said, those are my choices of my identity. When I transitioned as a transsexual person. And so that is where I fit. That's what I believe in. And tranny is what we used to remember. I'm 59, kids. 59. Back in the day, we all called ourselves trannies. It was super chill and no one gave a shit.
I still call myself a tranny.
So do I. Right on. I love you.
I love it.
It's ridiculous that they're telling us that we can't say tranny, but everyone says queer. So
Yeah.
it's gross.
But the difference is
Exactly. Queer was such a
horrible.
I remember, like,
many
yeah,
men
it was like,
died
oh,
because of queer.
Yeah, like
totally.
exactly. It used to be such a nasty word.
Nasty.
I think one of the reasons why people don't like the term transsexual is because it's exclusionary. Like it requires sacrifice in order to call yourself a transsexual.
Doesn't
and people don't want
make
to
more sense?
sacrifice anything.
Wouldn't trans? In my mind, transsexual makes, because you're going from one biological set, well, not next to another. It makes more sense than transgendered because then you're putting it all on the
transgender is like you use transgender just to say anything, really, because it's like they made gender meaningless. Yeah. They made gender a meaningless term, so it's just like transgender could mean anything, like trans feminine, trans masculine. Like, why even bother? Like, it's so stupid.
Yeah, and I wanted to say it earlier. I didn't say anything earlier. So I personally don't believe in more than two genders. I don't subscribe to it. And then on top of that, it's like, okay, if you want to be a man, just say you want to be a feminine man. You don't have to say that you're queer. Like, just say you want to be a feminine man. Just say you want to be a masculine.
And that's the thing about that is that I feel like it because if you can still identify as a man while presenting yourself in a feminine manner, it just pushes the boundaries and shows that men are multidimensional. Men can be feminine while still being men, and women can be masculine while still being women. They don't have to sacrifice their womanhood or their woman identity to, express themselves in a different way.
Right.
That's the problem.
That's why all of these
children, because you're telling children that there's only one way to be. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Exactly.
All these non-binaries, it's like, no, you're still a boy or a girl. You're still a boy or girl. You just like to dress however you want. What does it matter?
If non-binary was a thing, there would be conservative non-binaries.
That's right. Good point.
I'm being real. The way you know that being a transsexual is a real thing is that you find people from all types of walks of life all over the world, not just the Western world where we need to make problems up. All over the political spectrum. You have people like me, and then you have, think of the Ashley Marie Preston leftists. Whereas non-binaries, it's a political identity. They only exist on that side of the political spectrum. So it's not real.
That's right.
All right. Marcus, did you have something you wanted to say? I saw you almost interject.
Oh, yeah. It was just the only difference is they seriously identify as queer, while we call ourselves trannies just for fun, or it's cute, it's a nickname. But they seriously identify as a slur, and I just don't get it. And then they call me out. Like, some people, I've seen some YouTube videos where people mention me and they say, oh, that guy, the offensive T slur. So they can't even say my name. And it's and of course they're not trans.
Yeah.
That's the difference. And
if I'm being honest, go ahead.
Oh, with the transsexual part, is it called homogender or homosexual?
Right. That's
if I'm being honest, like, I don't call myself trans anything most of the time. I'm just me. Like, I don't. Why do I have to say anything? Like,
because I thought that was the whole point of transitioning, was to sort of embody that opposite sex. Like, you want to just get through society without having to answer these questions of, like, yes, I am trans. Like, that isn't that the whole point?
Yes. And
the people that ask me the most are the people that are the problematic ones.
I've never said more in my last 5 or so years that I am a biological female. I've never had to say it more than I've had to say it in the last fucking 5 years. The whole point of me transitioning was so I didn't ever have to say that again. It's like I continually have to say, I'm a woman.
Hey, Buck, can you say it one more time just so everyone?
Okay, I'm a lady.
Put it in your profile. So we got one more final question, and then we're going to wrap it up, get everyone's closing statements. So there is this organization that I came across during all this woke nonsense, and I found something called the LGB Alliance, which advocates for the separation of the T's in the LGBT. On that, how do you feel about that? Do you think
do it?
I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all.
Okay.
My take is, I agree. I don't blame them. If I was just like the standard run-of-the-mill, like gay or lesbian, I'd be offended by the amount of insanity happening. To me, if the entirety of the LGB decided to break off from the T tomorrow, my wall's not going to come crashing down. Like, I'm not going to implode. Like, I don't really care. I'm not a collectivist. I'm just me. I'm an individual.
Aren't you going to feel a loss of community?
I really wouldn't.
I'm not, to be honest, I'm not loyal to the trans community. Like, I'm not loyal to any of these communities.
Are any of us in here?
None of us are. Shame on you.
I feel the same. I don't think it's a movement. I don't think it's a movement that's gonna take off or take over or make any real effect in the real world. But I think that it is interesting that at the very least, it highlights the frustration of other segments of the community towards the team.
That's right.
All right.
I'm actually not that crazy excited about the LGBT Alliance, if I'm being honest. And I'm also talking mostly about the LGBT Alliance here in Denmark. I agree with maybe 80% of what they're saying and their opinions, but it's like they're generalizing the T. So because some trans people look bad, or some trans people are acting crazy, they make all trans people look bad. So they're like, okay, let's kick off the T then, even though they know it's only the minority that's, crazy. So I don't like how they're generalizing all of us, because then they're saying we're bad too, in a way. And I don't know, but I support the movement a little bit, but not fully, because I have experienced some transphobic, or whatever you want to call it, people within the movement. So I think it's a tough one.
Oh no, they're definitely
that's how I feel about.
Yeah,
that's how I feel about TERFs. To be honest, it's like when I read like a lot of the tweets that TERFs say, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I totally get it. And then sometimes I'm like, okay, like, like, I don't even think you believe that. Like, some of the things that they say, I'm just like, okay, you're just pushing it a little too far. But a lot of the times I'm like, yeah, I totally understand and I sympathize with what they're saying, and I also feel that way about the LGBT Alliance. Like, I have seen some extreme things that they've said, and I'm just like, okay, like, that's a little bit out of touch with reality, but I get where they're coming from, and I feel like that's just an important tool to have when you're facing somebody that opposes your view or perspective, is to try to understand at least where that person is coming from.
That's the problem with groups, though, right?
Yes, that is.
Groups and as organizations and as alliances, it's that it's just such a flawed thing inherently.
That's right.
When I think that the ultimate goal, at least for me in my life where I'm at, I really make an attempt to see people as individuals, stripped away from the labels, stripped away from what camp or tribe they're a part of. And I think that that's ultimately what we should be doing. And that helps our cause, by the way, because it helps people see that we are not just the T, that I'm Blair, that he's Marcus, that he's Buck. You know what I mean?
Yep, totally. So I'm going to say that I support that alliance. I do support it because I do think that sexuality and gender are two different things. And I think that I saw so much push from the trans community about transphobia. If you don't date somebody, or I don't care, trans women or women, and inviting themselves into gay women's spaces. And there was just so much stuff. So I really feel and understand why the LGBT Alliance was created, in order to sort of save their sexual space that they needed to just have a space for themselves. I actually support them as a trans person. And so I do that because I want them to understand that I do think it's important for them. Like, I think that we should have biological women-only spaces. I believe that. Same with male spaces.
Like
I
a
believe
woman's
in
locker room, by chance?
Correct.
As an example.
I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah.
Gothix, you did not ask that question though. The spicy question I gave you, I do want you to ask it.
Oh, which one was that? Was that the sex one?
Yeah.
Okay, really quick, because Buck's got to jet out of here. But here's the last question then, because you guys kind of answered a lot of my quickfire ones, actually. Is it transphobic to not have sex with a trans person or not be sexually attracted to a trans person? Go.
No.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I think that it's so funny how like trans people have this like perception by the sort of people maybe sometimes on the right or like the general population of maybe being a little rapey, seeing the incidents of like the Jessica Unions and the bathroom stuff and the wee spa. It's like we're getting this reputation that I believe is false. I don't think being trans is rapey. But guess what's like the wrong way to combat that stereotype? By telling people, if you don't fuck me, you're a bitch.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's rapey.
And it's always the ugly bitches.
Always.
Anyone who has an iota of self-respect, sanity, or hygiene doesn't have that much trouble getting laid that they have to. I can make a TikTok about why no one's fucking me and get the fuck out of here.
No shit.
And the good thing, we get a lot of offers, so we don't need people to.
Exactly.
I've never had a problem getting laid, so I don't know what they're talking about.
We know you haven't, Buck. We've seen it.
Yes. Yeah. Would you believe that I actually saw Buck naked before I actually interviewed Buck?
The only person I never want to see my porn is my mom, so I'm cool with everybody else.
Oh man. Well, y'all, this has been an amazing discussion. I know you guys, I don't think you guys can see the chat, but I can see it, and they are loving this panel. So I am going to wrap this up. I'm going to let everyone just tell everyone where they can find you and leave any closing statements if you want. Buck, since you got a dip, I'm going to start with you.
Okay, first, thank you, everyone. Thanks for everyone for showing up. This means so much to me. You can always find me on Twitter. Watch out, Buck Angel. Instagram, I might lose my account soon. Buck Angel. TikTok sucks. Don't even go there. Facebook, Buck Angel Official. Reach out to me. Honestly, I'm very accessible, and I really love to talk to people, and I really appreciate this opportunity to have an awesome adult conversation. So thank you.
Awesome. Anyone else want to go? Whoever.
You can just Google Blair White. Subscribe to me on YouTube. Follow me on Instagram. Do all that.
All right.
I'll let all the actual content creators go
I'm leaving.
first.
I love you guys. I have
Bye,
to go.
Buck. Bye.
Bye.
All right.
I mean, I don't know. I think, like intros and outros are a little awkward. But
That's okay.
yeah.
You can do whatever you want.
My Twitter is Illumiyoko, and my Instagram is Illumiyoko. So ILLUMIYOKO, and that's that.
All right. Thank you so much, Marcus.
Well, you can find me on YouTube, The Offensive Tranny, Instagram, same name, and Twitter, the same name. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely. This was so much fun. I hope I can have all of you guys back on the channel at some point. And I would love to have individual conversations with you on my channel as well, if you all are open to it.
Yes.
Awesome. Excellent.
Absolutely.
Everyone,
Excuse me.
I'm sorry. I'm shit. Okay, go ahead. Okay, go for it. Oh, I'm just gonna go over here.
So you can find me on Twitter at Brighton Baby. I was a Twitch streamer, I'm not anymore. So, and then you can also find me on Gothix's channel. You will definitely see me everywhere. So, yeah, that's you'll mostly find me around Gothix most of the time. So,
Awesome.
thanks. Anyway, though, whatever.
Love you. Babe, do you want to say bye? You're kind of the sidekick today.
Oh yeah, I mean, this was just awesome.
This is great.
Nah, honestly, I really loved it. But yeah, I mean, just thanking everyone for being here. I don't really need an outro. I was just a BF in the background. Just
say your Twitter. What are you doing?
It's my name.
It's right there. It's in it's in the text.
Okay, but no one knows that.
All right. Well, go follow him on Twitter.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you did, please like, subscribe, share the hell out of this video to all of these trans activists that are yelling on Twitter, and hopefully they'll learn something from this. And yeah, if you enjoyed this and you want more content, more panels like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. My name is Gothix, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.